This is Debbie, and this is Light Up Your Worth. I am so excited to bring you my guest, Elizabeth Kipp. She's a stress management and historical trauma specialist who uses trauma trained and yoga informed addiction recovery, coaching, ancestral clearing, compassionate inquiry, and yoga to help people with their healing. Elizabeth healed from over 40 years of chronic pain, including anxiety, panic attacks, and addiction. Now, in long-term recovery, she guides others to unleash their healing power, find freedom from suffering, and live a thriving life. She is the international best-selling author of The Way Through Chronic Pain, Tools to Reclaim Your Healing Power. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much, Debbie. It's great to be here.
You're combining a couple of the things that have been really piquing my interest, which is a trauma trained, trauma informed, and the ancestral clearing. I love what you're doing. I want to dig into ancestral clearing. Have you share, because it's a trademarked modality, and I really want to hear more about what that is and how does it do its magic?
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Debbie. Love the question. Ancestral clearing was pioneered by Howard Wills and further developed by John Newton of Health Beyond Belief. I'm one of his practitioners. I've been in the practice about 10 years, and it's a very powerful. Why is it powerful? It's powerful because we access the present moment, and we access the client's ability, wanting help. So they're open, and we're accessing the present moment. And we're also accessing source, creator, God, whatever you want to call that created all of this. We're accessing that and asking it to help us release that which no longer serves us. And we use the word, now I know people know, I know what forgiveness is, but we're using it very specifically to mean offering up that which no longer serves us, asking higher power to help us release. We're not asking higher power to release. We're asking it to help us release. It's different. We're not asking it to take anything from us. We're asking it to help us release that which no longer serves us. We remain like that free will piece is firmly part of this practice. If that makes sense. There's about 30 to 35 different ways that John teaches to get at the burden. He's got different levels of training. I'm happy to teach, to bring in one today that listeners can experience. And what's cool about it is that, yes, you'll feel it now as we do it, or you'll experience it. But it's as powerful in the replay as it is in the live. And why is that? Because quantum physics tells us that we can access past, present, and future all at once through the present moment. As long as we're here, we're in the field of consciousness. Past, present, and future is accessed through this present moment. Very powerful. Yeah, because I know I have a science background, and I felt the power of this practice. I was like, what the heck is going on here? Is it repeatable? Can you measure it? Is there training in it? Because I was just like, what is... So I just really came into the practice with the beginner's mind. And because I have this science background and I have a foot in the spiritual world, I wanted to know, how does it work? Some things we won't know, and that's outside of science. Science can only talk about that which it can observe, measure, and describe. We live in the all that is, not just in the part that science can observe, measure, and describe. So some stuff we're just not going to understand because we can't comment on it. If it's not in the science framework, science can't talk about it. It doesn't mean it's not real. Quantum physics gave us the answer. And I'm not a quantum physicist. That's not my area. But I have enough kind of very rudimentary understanding of the messages that quantum physics is giving us to be able to apply it to this practice, which is this, all that information that we need is in the present moment. It's so powerful. It was such a powerful thing when I first heard it. I was just like, oh my God, that implies so much. So we access the present moment. We're asking Creator to come in and help us release that which no longer serves us, and we do it with humility and gratitude. That's the general description of the practice.
I'd like to hear how you view ancestral clearing.
When our grandmother is pregnant with our mother, at the 4-month mark, begins the development of the eggs that are going to be us. Isn't that interesting? Our mother is born with all the eggs she's going to have her whole life. When she's born, they're all ready to go. They're not mature yet. We're spending, as parts of eggs, right? We're spending time for 5 months in our mother and our grandmother. We're sharing energetic space with them in terms of what are they going through. Was the grandmother going through stress? Is she worried about being able to feed another mouth? Is she worried about what the sex of the child? 1,000 things. Being pregnant is not easy. We worry a lot.
Yeah.
We try and do the best we can for the good of the baby, but we have our own programming and stuff that we're subject to, and pregnancy tends to amplify all that. So the baby is experiencing not just the mother's imprint, or we as eggs, we're experiencing the mother's imprint and the grandmother. And that's powerful to me. And take it one step further, our grandmother spent time in her grandmother. And she spent time in her grandmother. And now we're going back in time, and now you see an energetic link. People say we can measure 7 generations front and back, science. And I asked why the limitation. And they said because that's what science can measure. Science can only comment on what it can observe, measure, and describe. It may not be able to access the energetic imprint from that link, but quantum physics tells us it's there. So you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Now we've blown the whole thing up, and we're coming at a different angle. Let me give you an example of something that cleared for me that came really from my lineage. And I knew when I was 4 something was going on, but I couldn't name it, and I sure as heck couldn't talk about it. That kind of stuff was definitely not talked about in our family. By the time I was 4, I remember distinctly sitting in the living room and just seeing this dark, feeling this heavy energy and this darkness. And I'm like, what is going on in this family, and why am I in it? And I had that thought. And my family, we didn't talk about things that were unpleasant. It was all put under the rug or internalized, and no wonder I ended up in chronic pain. That's heavy programming, right? I had it in my body, I felt it, and I carried that until I was about a year or 2 into this ancestral clearing practice, and I happened to be in an event with John Newton, and he called me out because he saw it. He's quite interesting. He's a very perceptive guy. He saw it, and I didn't realize it was still there until he prompted me. He used the ancestral clearing process to help me release that burden. And I was later afterwards, it was astonishing. I couldn't talk to anybody about that. I didn't know what to call it. I didn't understand where it came from, what it was doing in me. There was all this confusion until I got into this practice and was around someone who really understood, was able to pick up on other people's energies. I was an open book. I'm like, let's do this. Whatever the current layer is, let's work on it. That's an example. I could tell you many others because it's not only am I a practitioner of this work, I've been in the work. What I love about it, when I'm working on a client, it's creator working through with, and I'm just a placeholder. The work works on me too. It's not just the client that gets the clearing. If I've got an issue that aligns with what the client's going through, that gets clear to me too. As practitioners, we're constantly in the work.
That's the most beautiful thing about all the healing arts. It's so much more powerful than all of that. The healing arts, it's so truly healing. And having been a practitioner myself, when I learned I was that conduit of the energy passing through, it's just more powerful. All the work we do to clear our own channel of that conduit so that our gifts can come through even stronger, more focused, more intuitive of what needs to be cleared. It's super powerful. I love your example of what you've have talked about as I've been doing research in my own family's just 3 generations of trying to figure out, asking some of the tough questions. I'm fortunate to have my mother still here. And so being able to really ask those questions nobody talked about either
Mhm.
in our family.
I'll tell you something else that's fun, which relates to the clearing that we'll do in a little bit. I was in a training last weekend, and this happens when I go on trains. It was an upper level training of John's for Ancestral Clearing practitioner training. And there was a woman in the group who was quite activated, and John started working on her, and it was very precise. She said, "I'm feeling hot and cold, and I'm feeling pressure in my head." And it turned out that her burden was around drowning. I said, when you drown at sea, you get the pressure, and you're maybe you've got the nervous system doesn't know what to do with temperature, and then it gets really cold, right? And it was powerful to watch her go through it. But what was really interesting was how my body reacted. I felt it. I felt myself go through a clearing. And that was interesting to me because my maternal grandmother was killed in the Second World War before I was born. My mother was 16 when it happened, and it was this horrible tragedy. I was never allowed to talk about my maternal grandmother because it was so painful for my mom. She never was able, she just had no idea how to grieve that in a healthy way. She just didn't have the tools, right? And
Yeah.
I certainly didn't have the tools at that time to help her. And I knew that she carried that burden. But until that training last weekend, I had no idea I was carrying some of that. And I was like, wow, that was a huge opening for me. This is huge. I hit this huge opening. And this other woman, we're doing a clearing for her, but I felt the effect as well. And a lot of other people did in the room that had a common thread. And I'm just saying this work is very powerful because everybody in the field feels the effect if it resonates with their burden.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see how a, that experience, those very specific burdens, would translate to so many in the room, knowing that, and this is could be way off topic, but knowing that for hundreds of years in Europe, women were drowned thinking that they were witches.
Oh, absolutely. Of course, it goes into the witch wound, which is a whole another
Yeah.
podcast because I do work on that. I've got a whole thing that I do on the witch wound.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a whole, absolutely a huge aspect of it.
From everything that I've understood and the stuff, the work I've done on some of that, I think there's still more to do because it's such a big wound,
The big
but
one.
it was the wound that I firmly believe that has caused, and it was created to stop women from collaborating with each other. And so I think a lot of women that you find who've done a lot of really deep healing on that wound are more about collaboration and
Mhm.
helping each other versus the competition.
Mhm. Oh yeah, I think we're moving from the Piscean to the Aquarian age. The old model is competition. That's a Piscean model. That's a very patriarchal model,
Mhm.
moving into the Aquarian age, which is more the feminine's rising, and that's collaboration. There's abundance for everyone. And it's so interesting because I was just studying one of the Yoga Sutras today on acknowledging abundance. And it's a sutra, a 2.39. And one of the things that we were talking about is that when you focus on what you don't have, that brings with it an element of fear, and now you've lost the joy of the present moment.
Mhm.
And so if you can actually realize everything you have, everything you need, you have in this moment, you have what you need. and let that be enough, now you're setting yourself up to be having a moment of freedom and accessing that joy.
Mm-hmm.
Which really feeds into the whole concept of your podcast of knowing your worth. When is it going to be enough?
Yes. It's a really good question for people to contemplate at a really deep level. What
Yeah.
is it going to take for myself to stay present? I want to go back to also what the generational stuff is. Can worthiness issues get passed down from one generation to the other? What's your perspective?
Sure. Yeah, sure. That's that we talked about the energetic, just the energetic on the female line, and we still have the male line that's coming in with their contribution from the quantum perspective. Absolutely. And that can get translated. There's a whole spectrum of things that could show up, worthiness issues that could show up. Things like, what's my purpose? I don't know what my purpose is. Codependency. I'm more focused on attaching to you. I'm ceding my power to you instead of standing in my own. That thing about I'm not enough.
Mm-hmm.
Just we get back to the question of when is enough going to be enough,
Mm-hmm.
right? And also that inner critic, that we can have critical mothers, fathers. I asked my doctor, I a beautiful, wonderful doctor, Dr. Peter Prescott, who was a pain management specialist and lots of other things. I asked him one time, I was in a group with a bunch of other chronic pain sufferers, and I said to him, how is it that the scariest voice in my head is the same, my inner critic, is the same voice as the scariest person in my life, who was, in my case, was my mother. And everybody in the room nodded their head. I was like, oh, God, this is a thing. This is not just me being weird. This is a thing. Right? And Dr. Prescott said, because we're wired to attune to the biggest threat in our environment.
Oh, I
And
just
that,
got heated up like a hot flash.
yeah, that's powerful.
Oh,
So that gets translated into we need to keep ourselves safe. And we develop an inner critic whose mission is to keep us safe in the best way that it knows how. And the only way that it knows how is to be freaking critical. This epic critic, right? And I had a very well developed inner critic when I was in his program. And when I heard that, I was like, that's interesting. And knowing that the brain, you can rewire the brain, you can rewire those behaviors. I gave my inner critic a makeover.
oh, tell me
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. I gave her a makeover. I had to imagine, what is this inner critic anyway? How is she showing up currently? She was a Supreme Court judger who had an opinion about everything. She looked old. Her face was white and like pasty pale because she hadn't been out in the sun at all. And her lips, the edges of her lips went down because she was always scowling. And she was hunched over. So I saw that. She always had a comment, a judgmental comment about everything. And I thought, okay, I got your number. You know, I got your number. Now, how am I going to change that? How am I going to rescript this? And I thought, oh, her hair was up in a big tight bun too, right?
Oh.
And I thought, okay, let's let her hair down and brush it out, right? Shampoo it. Let's take off those big judge black robes and take her out into a garden and put on lovely embroidered light colored fabric and give her a little chocolate to make her smile and give her some rose for love and give her some lavender to calm her the freak down, right? And I sensed into that and I thought to myself, what does she look like? What does she smell like? What is she feeling like? She's calmer, right? Because we gave her the lavender oil. And so we've got all that. And I thought, what does she sound like? And I thought about that for a long time. I thought, okay, this this person has a comment about everything. That's her habit. How would I make that into a useful voice instead of this judgmental voice? Because the mind, it's always in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about Joan Rivers, the comedian.
Yeah.
And I thought Joan Rivers always had a comment about everything, and she was always hilarious. So I thought I have to make this person into a comic, and Joan Rivers was the perfect fit. so so I turned my inner critic into that, and so I had a picture of where she was currently and where I wanted to get to, and I just stayed conscious and worked that process. And I crack myself up now when my inner critic is going because I hear Joan Rivers in my brain. It's hilarious.
Oh, what a powerful exercise. I've never heard of anybody trying to describe who that inner critic is that we all carry around with us,
Yeah.
and then that it's attached to the most critical person
Mm-hmm.
of where
You
you
know,
picked it up.
I took my inner mean girl to inner mean girl reform school.
Oh,
That's what I did. I gave her a makeover. That's how that worked. Yeah.
oh, wow. That, what a powerful exercise to be able to walk people through doing
Was.
that for ourselves
That's
and
right.
then with others.
It was doable. Oh, it took me time. I had to practice and stuff, but I got there and I live a much more peaceful life. Yes, I have an inner critic, but there's compassion there, and it's not the crabby beat yourself up kind of thing happening in me anymore. It's made my life much more calm and loving and compassionate. I actually
Yeah,
have compassion for myself.
yeah. Oh, and isn't compassion just a beautiful thing? I'm more likely to give you compassion and grace sometimes than I am myself,
I
or
hear you. That's the whole
where,
deal.
we pick that up. That's got to be an ancestral thing that has been passed down.
I really feel like my mom was running on reaction when I given my life and looking back on her. She passed away some years ago, but she just came out of the womb with no tools, and my heart just goes out to her when I think about it because she just wasn't blessed with these things, and she got through life on her wits, and it was painful.
Mhm.
It was painful. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think so many generations before us, you
She
look
learned
at
it
the,
from her mom. She
Mhm.
learned it from her mom, and on down the line. These are things that we learn when we're all in reaction. Those are programs that are coming in that we're just repeating.
Mhm.
It takes work like this to break that programming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the powerfulness. Now, what have you noticed with the people that you've worked with in how it has really shifted how they show up?
Yeah, that's the sweet thing to watch, really. To see someone who is still, when I first meet them, when they've got unresolved trauma in the system, so they're guarded, and they're so guarded that they've lost track of their authentic self. They're often giving their power away to other people, that codependency piece I was talking about, because they
Mhm.
can't stand in their own because they're so guarded. To be able to watch that unravel and unwind, and then see them step into their own power and rise into their potential, I don't think I could have a better job.
Mhm.
It's just the coolest thing to be able to be any little tiny bit of that in terms of a guide, because I'm
Mhm.
not they're doing the healing. I'm just showing them the way, and they're stepping in. I'm opening a door. It's up to them to walk through. That's like your work as well. To be a witness at that is a great honor.
Mhm. Yeah, I have found that when people really step into their own worth, that the light really just shines through them, and how they walk, how they talk, the
Mhm.
boundaries that they hold, the
Mhm.
behaviors they no longer allow to occur to them. Like they just stand like a little
Mhm.
taller.
Sure, they're not guarding. Collapse. We're protecting our heart when we're collapsed like that. But we also can't breathe because we
Yeah.
don't have access. We've collapsed our access to the lung. And the breath is so important in helping us uh, find regulation again and not be so guarded. We have to find
Mhm.
safety, right? So
Yeah.
posture is a big thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Super, super powerful work to be able to get in there and help people.
Dr. Gabor Mate, who I studied with for a year, cellular learning, compassion, inquiry, he talks about big T, little t, it's all trauma. Trauma is a wound that we become disconnected from our authentic self. When I'm busy doing the guarding, I can't connect. You can't run and digest your food at the same time. You can't run and rest. It doesn't work like that. The nervous system's not made for that. And you can't defend and connect at the same time. Not in a healthy way. You might connect codependently, but you can't connect authentically that way. So this is what happens with an unresolved trauma. It's a wound, and the good news is wounds can heal, and it disconnects us from our authentic self. So it doesn't matter if it's a big one or a little one. If you get disconnected from your authenticity, now we're off to the races, having to deal with.
Oh, that's fascinating. I've never heard that perspective, and that makes sense to me.
Yeah, this is why you're seeing a difference with your clients, because they're moving from this defended territory to stepping into their power. Now I'm authentic because I've healed the wound. Does that make sense within the scope of your practice?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just
most definitely.
a different way of wording it, but yeah.
Yeah, it does. It makes complete sense with that.
I thought it made complete sense too. When I heard it, I'm like, okay, you're talking my language here, because that's hitting on it's looking at the nervous system, trying to be safe, and that's talking polyvagal theory, and that's my neurophysiology. Take me there. I love the woo, but ground it somewhere.
Yes.
You got to ground it somewhere so I can get a handle on it. And on the other hand, remember, there's the scientific framework that's got its limitations, and then there's everything outside of that. And I'm having a human experience, and I live in both places. Part of my experience is can I be comfortable with the mystery? Can I be comfortable with not knowing? And that's a whole nother way to stand into your power. Oh, I can even be comfortable with the not knowing. Awesome.
I have found as I started down this journey back in September 2001 is when I had my first Reiki attunement. And I had no idea, right? The United States had this the whole terrorist attack here. And with everything that was already going on, I had been flying the day before.
Oh my goodness.
And so I was home, a single mom, and I had bought my second house home. And so I ended up just couldn't function there for a minute and had to take a few weeks to just calm my nervous system, just could not adjust to what I was witnessing. And knowing I had just been on a flight, was tired, woke up to watch this unfolding. And it really was a pivotal moment if I write out the milestones of life of what changed things for me and where I am now versus just going around just what the quotations the normal person is doing and seeing that really wasn't aligning up with everything. And what if I had happened to have been on one of those flights or and it was really powerful learning at that point to begin to start to understand how powerful the nervous system is and our own response to how we're showing up in our lives now.
Absolutely. Yeah. Remember, we have the power of the present moment and choice in this moment and how we're going to act or respond. And it has the momentum of the past in it. So if I have a habit, this is how I do life, stressful, right? I do life like this. Then the odds are, unless I'm awake enough in the present moment to change that programming, I'm going to respond that way again, unless I can become present and make that choice and realize I have a choice. I can chart a new path, or I can revert back to my old habit. Which way am I going to go? That's empowering. We have that power, and the brain's very responsive to our choices.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
I know I believe that, and I know I'm still doing more work on that.
Well, the
Right?
practice is, can I stay present? Can
Mhm.
I stay here instead of trying to get there? When I'm here, but part of me is, what's next? That's Western society, is what's the next thing? So whatever I'm doing now, I'm also trying to figure out what's next. So that's not just a habit of trying to get stuff done, which is what the way society is set up. It's also a stress pattern of trauma. It's hypervigilance. I'm always looking out for when's the next thing going to hit. So I'm not here, and we heal in the present moment. We don't heal in the future or the past. We heal here.
Mhm.
So if I'm spending more time in the future, good luck with healing that. This is why it's a practice, because
Yeah.
our habits are trying to take us out of the present moment, and the healing happens here.
Mhm. Now, how do you blend what we've been talking about, the whole ancestral healing and talking about the nervous system? Now, how do you fold in the yoga informed recovery now?
Yeah, great question. That so we bring in the present moment as a core piece.
Mhm.
And then another thing, just for instance, I did a group event around the mother wound, and there's a lot of grief around that.
Mhm.
And we were working with one of the people in the program, and she had a lot of, you could just tell she had a lot of grief around what had happened with her and her mom. And so you can use yoga. You just take your thumbs and put them under your armpits, and then your fingers just on your chest, and just breathe there. You'll feel a soft spot, a real tender spot, and up against the rib. Don't
Mhm.
push hard, just apply, just place them there. And you're right on the lung meridian there. And just find a nice, comfortable way to breathe in this space, as long and deep as you can. And by doing that, you're stimulating the lung meridian with your thumb, and you're sending a signal to the nervous system that it's safe by doing that long, deep breath.
Mhm.
And now the body is able, because we're out of the way, as it were, spending time, we're just breathing. We're not coming with our judgments. We're just breathing. Now the body can process that grief.
Mhm.
So this is a way to actually process grief. And I did that. I had the group do that for just, it's nice to do it for 3 minutes, but you can do it for 1 minute and feel the effect. You could feel it.
Mhm.
Very interesting. And I had taught that to everyone in the room. And I had, this woman was out of her sensation level, from 0 to 10 was a 6, down from an 8. And I was like, man, she's got grief in the system. Let's help her process that. And it just was, it just was like gone. It was great.
Oh,
Just dissipated. Yeah.
what
So
a
that's how you can bring a little yoga into that. I learned that in trauma informed yoga. You can bring a little yoga in there to support the body, as it's, because the mind, body, spirit, ancestral clearing speaks to the mind, but we're also accessing the body, and
Mhm.
we support the body when we can. And sometimes it's useful. I bring in those kinds of things to help people when they're processing stuff.
That's a really powerful and quick
I know.
way to be able to add even into your daily practice, whether it's in the morning or whenever you're doing those type of activities or before you go to bed at night. How powerful would that be to be able to just continually release it in layers and
Yeah. And you talk about not being able to step into your own worth. Imagine the unspent tears of countless generations of grief around women that were, you can't do it, don't do it that way, we don't want you to, we don't want to hear from you, all the stuff, right? It's one thing they're suppressed, but then there's the grief around, where's the love? And so when we're not clearing that, we're carrying it. That is a very helpful process exercise to help the body release this old grief.
yeah,
We don't
super
even have to
powerful.
know what the grief is. We just have to do the practice, and the body knows
Mhm.
exactly what to do with it. It's pretty cool.
Where's the love?
Yeah.
When how many people have never felt loved?
Yeah, and the letdown around that,
Mm-hmm.
the letdown, it's just, we're just getting heavier and heavier. And in terms of being conscious of it, but the unconscious that we're carrying is, we're just in this conversation we're having, we're giving people an idea of what we're carrying.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, wow. That's a really great nugget for everybody to be able to incorporate to help themselves, because you may not even understand how much you're healing your own body,
Mhm.
because it's not a difficult exercise. It's rather simple, but yet very
Yeah.
profound impact on our bodies. I'm curious, you had offered to give us this experience for
Sure.
myself and the listeners, and I would love to be able to have a dive into that.
Perfect. Yeah. So ancestor clearing, as we said, we're referencing creator, God, source, whatever you want to call whatever made all of this. And we're using the word forgive to mean we're offering up that which no longer serves us. And we're doing it with humility and gratitude. So everyone listening to this, if you could just notice the sensations you're feeling in the body. Just like an example, I feel my feet on the floor and my sitting bones on the chair and my back against the chair. And I have a little bit of tingling on my cheeks, and I've got something going on below my ribs on the right side. I would give that all about a 3 out of 10, but pick your number, notice what the number is, and just breathe normally into all those sensations. Just allow them to be there and let these words pass over you. Oh, higher power, with all that you are, all that you encompass, in the full span of all time and in all realms, we thank you for our lives. We thank you for your enduring and unconditional love, light, and guidance. For us and all our ancestors, through all space, time, dimension, realms, and lifetimes, for those times when we felt we weren't enough for each other, for ourselves, didn't feel up to the tasks of life itself, and felt we weren't enough for you, higher power. And for the times we affected this in others, knowingly or unknowingly. Please help us all to forgive each other and forgive ourselves. Please and thank you. For when we heard our heart beckon to us to go a certain way and we turned a deaf ear, a blind eye, and turned away from this inner knowing and all that arose because of it in our lives and in the lives of others, please help us all forgive each other and forgive ourselves no matter what. Please and thank you. For the times we went to others for help or tried to help others, only to find that help just wasn't there. And for whatever reason, and all that we felt because of it, around it, and about it, and for all the times we felt you let us down as well. Please help us all forgive one another and forgive ourselves and forgive you, higher power. Please and thank you. For all those times when we felt we were at the mercy of the incessant negative thoughts that sprung forth mind. For the times these thoughts overrode what we knew to be true in our hearts. For the times we couldn't see or hear clearly what our heart was revealing to us in truth. For the times we tried to see or hear what was in our heart, but somehow felt disconnected to what it was trying to impart to us. Please help us all forgive ourselves and forgive you, higher power, for any part we thought you played in this. Please and thank you. Please help us find our way with your guidance, all that happened to us, through us, because of us, and help forgive us the same. Help us all feel your loving embrace, pass your love on to others through us, and help us all love ourselves as you love us always and forever. May we feel your grace fill us, and may we always and forever feel filled with your grace. Help us find peace, ease, and contentment with each other and ourselves, and you, higher power, now and forever. Please and thank you. Please and thank you. Please and thank you. Just take a nice big breath in and let it out, and notice how that feels now. Notice if the number is big or small or different.
Mine is smaller. I was focusing on where I'm sitting, those muscles there that were stiff, probably about a 5. I feel like a 2 now.
There you go. Yeah, it's working its way out. Isn't that interesting? It's really fun. It's a fun, powerful, like I said, what the hell is happening here? I was just like, I know something's happening. What is it?
Yeah,
That was my first.
exactly.
It's like, wow.
Yeah, I loved how you were, even from the beginning, you knew something was happening, and what you've explained, we could only understand so much of it in a science base, but getting it somehow focused, at least with some of it, we know that it really is doing so much, and it doesn't have to be super complicated, right?
That's
In
right.
some ways, it doesn't feel super complicated to have listened to that, right? You're just sitting there breathing, connecting in, feeling my feet, hitting the carpet, feeling my bones, and
But we're also opening to a new experience. We're asking for help and we're getting it.
mhm,
When we ask for help from the boss, we're going to get help. We might not get help the way we want it or thought we were going to get it, but we get it.
mhm. Oh, yeah. I've always noticed when I lift things up and ask for help that after almost 6 decades now, if something isn't working out, it's because something else is better is coming. Everything always works out.
Yeah,
It
there's
just
a
might
new
look
alignment
different.
coming.
Hmm.
There's a new alignment coming. We just
Hmm.
we just maybe can't see it yet, but it's coming. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And as we record this, I know that there's some big alignment changes coming. So
There
it
you
will
go.
be beautiful to see how this plays into it. So thank you for
Oh, my pleasure.
It was beautiful. So I want to switch our whole focus now completely over to the two questions I like to ask all of my guests, Elizabeth. And the first question is around music. I really believe music is a powerful, healing, uplifting. It just fills our soul. And so I'm always curious to find out what's a go-to song that you will put on to help bring you back to yourself or bring you back present.
Yeah, love the question. So important. I love music too, a very eclectic background. But to come back to myself, I use a simple mantra, Sat Nam, Sat Nam. Sat means truth, Nam means name or identity. So Sat Nam, Sanskrit words that mean truth is my identity. So it's bringing me back to my true self. And it's beautiful, just Sat Nam or Satanama as a mantra. I make my own song, but it's very helpful. It brings me right back to my present moment. Right now I'm here instead of projecting into the future.
That's beautiful. The second question I always like to know is where we are now in our journeys, the seasons that we've gone through. What if we could go back now with what we know to our younger self? What would we tell her?
I would tell her that her worth was never in question, that she came in worthy and she'll always be worthy. And that's not even a question. It's just a misunderstanding. Important to understand that. Now, I just said that, and everybody heard me say that. And here's the question: did you feel it in your mind, or did you feel it in your heart and your bones?
Mm,
And when you feel, I came in worthy, I'll always be worthy. When you feel that in your heart and in your bones, now you've got it.
mm.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yay. Love that.
It's a journey, man.
It is. I'm telling you. It most definitely is a journey. All the work that we've done is really helping other
Yeah.
generations that are coming after us and our whole collective energy.
Yeah. When we're raised with, we don't want to hear what you have to say. You'll never amount to anything. You'll never be worth anything. All of that. Then we get very confused about our worth. And we have to be very careful. Well, this would be another thing I would say attached to this. I try and be conscious about what information I'm taking in.
Mm.
So I hear things, but they don't necessarily come in.
Hmm.
Might just come in and go right out.
Yes.
But I have to be careful about what media on all levels that all the things that I'm exposing myself to. And I don't watch so many movies anymore because most of them are pretty dark. It's not helpful for me, just as an example, right? So
Yes.
the programming that we have either generationally or in our own life around you're not worthy, we need to do work around that so that when you actually get that was a misunderstanding on everybody's part, and especially my part, and that my worthiness was never an issue.
No, it was not. Elizabeth, you came in worthy.
So did you.
Yeah.
No.
Oh my goodness. So I have really enjoyed our conversation, and I'm sure that there's somebody who wants to know, besides myself, how can the listeners reach you, Elizabeth?
Oh, thank you. You can reach me at my website, which is Elizabeth with a hyphen, and then my last name, Kipp, K-I-P, like Peter Pan.com. Got to put the hyphen in there. Otherwise, you'll find the wrong Elizabeth Kipp. So it's Elizabeth with a hyphen, Kipp.com. You can contact me through that website. You can book a session, a free introductory session if you want, an ancestral clearing session, whatever. I have lots of free resources up there. You can find me anywhere on social media.
Mm, I love that. And is your social media the Elizabeth-Kipp as well?
No, it's just Elizabeth Kipp. Yeah,
Okay.
you'll find me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Yep.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Elizabeth, for not only sharing all of your knowledge, but actually letting us experience and being able to feel what that feels like in our own bodies. I feel so blessed to have had you offer that to ourselves, to myself and the listeners. So thank you very much. And it's been a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.